He says that you are killing your own soul because you are acting against your own dharma, your own consciousness. So, and on top of that, you're making a show of virtue, but actually your conduct is deceptive, he tells Rama. And he says, I was both administration and punishment are the duties of a king. And you could have punished me as a king, but you just go around discharging arrows wherever you please. So there is no question of your punishing me as a king. He said, acting according to your sweet will, you're carried away by your senses, Rama. Act, having killed me here with an arrow, even though I had not committed any offense, what are you going to do now? And he says, the with you as the Lord of Ayodhya, someday when you go back, the um, kingdom itself will not be protected. The earth will not have a protector. That's what the king is supposed to be, because this is your attitude. Then he says, having done such a vicious and undesirable act, what will you say in justification of your conduct? He said, all you wanted was Sita. All you had to do was to just tell me, and I would have come and I would have gone and brought her for you without any problem, single handed. It was true because when Vali was very young and Ravana was young, Vali would go to the seven oceans and he would do his Sandhya Vandar, Gayatri Jap. So on one fine day, Ravana came there and he thought, here's this monkey doing the Sandhya Vandana. Let me go and provoke him. So he quietly creeps up behind Vali and he holds his tail just to irritate him. What Vali does, he twirls the tail around Ravana, and wherever he goes to the six other oceans. He goes with Ravana tied to his tail, and every time he takes a dip in the ocean, Ravana also gets into the ocean. So Ravana now has no way of freeing himself. Then Vali goes home, his son Angada is in the cradle. And I don't know if you have it there, but here we have some little toys on top of the crib, which will turn round and things like that to amuse the baby in the cradle. On top, it'll be tied. Yeah. So he, with his tail, he just hung Ravana there and twirled him round as if it was a toy for the kid. So finally, Ravana had to beg him. He said, please let me go. I was only trying to prank you. So Vali says, okay, don't try these tricks with me because I'm much stronger than you. So Ravana gives him a blessing that whenever you fight with anybody, their half their strength will come to you, to Vali. So he'll definitely be stronger than anybody he takes on. So they go away. Ravana goes back, and Rama reminds him of that, and he says, you are a friend of Ravana's. Ravana has taken away my wife. With what confidence would I have asked you to go and get Sita in the first place? Secondly, I've made an ally of Sugriva, and we promised that we will help get each other's wives. And that is a kingly promise. If I didn't kill you in this situation, what would happen to his wife and my wife for that matter? But much more than that, this was not the reason I killed you. The reason I killed you was because you did something very wrong. You abducted Sugriva's wife, and while Sugriva was alive, you were keeping her and using her. Now he says in the Shastra, any person who is your younger brother or a guru, these are people, a guru is like a father, a younger brother is like a son. So Sugriva, who's your younger brother, his wife would have been like a daughter. And what you did is something like incest. And the punishment for that in this day is death. So I've only punished you according to the laws of the land. In the meantime, while he is saying all that, Vali is looking at him. He pulls out the arrow from his chest, and on that the Ram Nam is written, the name of Rama. And that arrow gives him a light which goes right up to the highest dimension of consciousness. Then he realizes that this is actually Paramatma and it's not any ordinary person. Then Rama tells him, let us not keep fighting about any of this and arguing. What is done is done. And this was how it was meant to be. And because of this, I can give you immortality also. Shall I give you immortality? Then Vali tells him, even the great sages who are wanting to say your name when they die, because then you get liberation, it's said. They even forget at the last minute to say the name. And here I am, so privileged to have you standing right in front of me, so I can't forget when I'm dying. When I get such an opportunity, why would I want to be immortal? He said, I'm just asking you two things. One thing is, stand by me right in front of me till I leave my breath, so that I will see you and remember to take your name when I die. Secondly, after I'm gone, please see that Tara, that's his wife, is not misused by Sugriva like I did to his wife. And because she'll be a widow and she was the one who is so strong and wise, let her not be misused by other people because they will find her as a threat. And secondly, look after my child Angada. He doesn't deserve his father dying like this. You have to be his preceptor and you have to protect him. So Rama says, yes, I will do that. And Rama takes Angada's hand. Angada is Vali's son, hand in his hand. And Vali sees this and he is so reassured when he is going that I know now that the Paramatma will take care of my son. So he then takes his chain off. You know, he can't die when he has a chain on. So he takes a chain off and he gives it to Sugriva and he says, let's forget our enmity. You wear it, you be the king. But after you, make sure that Angada is the regent, the next king. So by then Sugriva feels wretched because of all this. And he says, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Why not I also die with you? And Rama steps in and says, no, that's not the way to say that, because who's going to look after Angada? You've got to take over the kingdom, look after the kingdom, and take care of Angada also. That's your responsibility now. You brought me to this place. You can't run away. And he tells Sugriva, all your life you've been running away and running away and running away. Because on one time when Rama asks Sugriva the journey, Sugriva will tell him the whole geography of that area. And Rama says, how come you know so much about the geography here? He says, you say I was running away from Vali. So until I came to this Rishyamukh mountain, I've been everywhere. And so I know the whole layout of this entire dominion. So then he gives the chain, Vali gives the chain to Sugriva and he dies. And then say Rama's name. Then Tara, his wife, hears of this and she comes running. And she had warned Vali not to go. But Vali hadn't heeded. So she comes there and she says, I warned you not to go into this fight, but you never listened to me. But what now? He wants to fast unto death or to get on his funeral pyre and die with him. So again, Rama talks to her and he says, you can't do that. And he says, you've got to stay around for this child's sake. And in any case, you know that the body is anitya. Today this body, tomorrow another body, it doesn't make a difference. The Atma has to remain with the divine. And keep your Atma with the divine and protect your child and carry on. He said, when your time comes, you will also go, like my body will also go. So Tara then bows to him and then they go back to the kingdom. And then what happens is Um, Rama tells Sugriva, now it's monsoons have started. It's going to go on for 4 months. And you've been through so much of a strain all these years. So he says, I'm not telling you go find Sita right now. You go to your palace, relax, have a break, have a good time, enjoy yourself. And within 4 months, by the time the monsoon starts, you should give me some news as to where you think Sita could be. So what Sugriva does is he goes back to the palace, and Sugriva is very impulsive. So he goes, he has a good time in the palace, and he gets intoxicated. He forgets all about Rama. And one day after the war, after the monsoons, Rama calls Lakshmana and says, look at Sugriva, so quickly he's forgotten all his gratitude. He doesn't know with the same arrow that I killed Vali, I can send him also to the other world. Go and ask him what happened to the promise. So when Lakshmana goes, he too is angry. So he goes to Sugriva's kingdom, and Sugriva is having a rollicking time there with all the women around and all. And Tara looks out and she sees Lakshmana coming. She quickly goes and wakes up Sugriva and she said, enough, get up now. Lakshmana is coming and is looking like thunder. So, what are we to do now? So he says, I don't know what to do. I'm scared to go in front of him. Tell you what, you go and talk to him, and then I'll slowly come down. So Tara makes her eyes a bit red, like she's intoxicated too. And she takes Hanuman and she goes to see Lakshmana. Now Lakshmana is very bashful in front of women, other women. And on top of that, to see a woman, whom he respects and who's looking intoxicated when she comes to meet him, he lowers his eyes, he doesn't look at her. So at that time, what Hanuman does is he starts singing the song of Ramakatha. That is this Ramayana. All that he has heard from Rama about Dasharatha and how he goes into exile and all that he keeps singing. And Lakshmana is so entranced with this music, he just keeps following Hanuman. Hanuman walks, and takes him to the um, door of the palace. And then Lakshmana suddenly realizes he's right there at the doorstep and his anger is not so much. By then, Sugriva comes out and he falls at Lakshmana's feet and he says, I'm very sorry. Actually, I haven't forgotten. I've sent a few monkeys and people to scout around and find out where she could have been taken. So Lakshmana says to him, don't tell me all this. You come and say that to Rama himself. So Sugriva comes to Rama and he falls at his feet and he says, I'm very sorry. I've already sent a few people. In a few days, I can tell you where she is. I've made these four, um, what would you call it, divisions. So all the monkeys and the bears and all that have been put in four different teams. And Angada and Hanuman are supposed to go south, and somebody else goes to the west, east, and north. So then we hear about the others not finding Sita, but Hanuman is going and they're very, very tired and they're getting demoralized. So at that time, they find a cave sort of place and they go in and they see a very beautiful woman sitting there and doing penance. So as soon as these people come, she opens her eyes and she says, are you from Rama? So Sugriva feels very surprised. How does she know? So she says, see, I made a mistake many years ago for which I was cursed to sit here for years and years doing penance. And the rishi who cursed me said that when Rama's emissaries come and meet you, you will be liberated. So she says, I've got a whole lot of goodies here, so you can all eat and drink comfortably. And so they all go and eat. Their exhaustion is over. Then the next day, she says, now let me take you to the seashore. From there, I know you will be able to find Sita. So what happens is, she asks Hanuman, she says, before I take you, I want to ask you a favor. I'm going to give up my body because I'm liberated of all this. Can you please send me to the next dimension? So Hanuman says, not the just next dimension, I'll take you to the highest dimension, and he tears the barriers. And she says, close your eyes, you will take off, and I'm leaving. So then she goes, her soul goes through those barriers and she gets liberated. And when Hanuman and his other monkeys open their eyes, they find themselves on the seashore. Now, having come to the seashore, they're thinking to themselves, now what do we do? Because she said, come here, she's not here, now we don't know where to go. So when they're talking like this, and there is a big eagle out there, a vulture without wings, an old vulture, and he's watching all this, and he thinks to himself, now I've been hungry so many days and I couldn't fly and get my prey. These monkeys have come, at least today I'll have a good lunch. So when he is saying that, the monkeys are talking amongst themselves that we couldn't find Sita and Rama will be upset with us. Sugriva will definitely kill us. Already Jatayu is dead. So this other vulture immediately says, did I hear the name Jatayu? Then they'll say, yes, he actually, and they tell him the story of how Jatayu died. Then he says, Jatayu was my younger brother. He weeps for him. Then he says, when they were younger, they both wanted to touch the sun. And they went high up. Jatayu was a little ahead. So this vulture, the elder brother Sampati, he puts his wings over Jatayu to shield him from the sun's rays, and his wings get burnt and he drops off. Jatayu is alive. So he meets a rishi and he tells him, I believe, see, this has happened to me, what will I do? So the rishi says, don't worry. When you meet Hanuman, your wings will come back because you'll tell him how to find Sita. Now, they don't know any of this. They just keep these memories in mind. So when Hanuman asks him, he says, Sampati has this distant sight. So he says, I can see Sita sitting in Ashokvana. She is in Sri Lanka. You've got to go and fetch her from there. So then the monkeys start discussing who can jump over the ocean, and that was so many kilometers, so many miles. So each one says, I can do so many miles, but then I'll get stuck in the middle of the ocean. And Angada says, I can go, but I won't be able to come back because Ravana's son Akshay Kumar and I were classmates in the Hermitage when we were young. And we were always quarreling. And when we were quarreling, one time the teacher, that's the Rishi, told them that uh, the next time we quarrel like this, they will, something dreadful will happen. And if he fights with Akshay Kumar one more time, he will die. So he said, I can go up to Lanka, but I may not be able to come back because Akshay Kumar, Ravana's son, is there and he is likely to kill me. So he said. Now, so then Hanuman is sitting with eyes closed, and a bear called Jambavan comes to him and he says, Hanuman, you are able to jump that distance. Hanuman says, me? I can't jump this. And Jambavan says, no, when you were a child, you jumped all the way to catch the sun thinking it was an orange. And Indra threw his thunderbolt and you fell down and your um, maxilla, the jaw got broken. That's why you were called Hanuman. They gave you life, they gave you certain rules, and they said you don't know your strength until somebody reminds you of it. And when you are reminded, then you remember and you'll get back your strength. So he said, I am reminding you of your strength now, and you will be, I know you are able to jump from here to Lanka and come back. So Hanuman tells, and while Jambavan is telling Hanuman that, Hanuman starts becoming bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And finally he says, okay, I'll jump and I'll go. Meanwhile, Rama has given him a ring on which his name is written, Rama. So he has told Hanuman, take this ring with you. So if Sita doesn't believe you, you can show her this ring. She knows. And he tells him one or two secrets that only Rama and Sita know of, which later Hanuman tell Sita to show that he is really coming. So he would, when he was going, Hanuman thought to himself, where will I keep this ring carefully? I can't hold it in my left hand because it's too sacred to use it with my left hand. I can't hold it in my right hand because I might need to hold something when I jump and I lose it. So finally, he thinks, let me put it in my mouth because it won't be seen outside and it will remain safe. So the Tulsi Das will say, when you go on a great mission, keep the Rama's name in your mouth. Say the Ram Japa and invoke Rama, and you will go and succeed in whatever mission you are doing. So he puts this in his mouth and he takes off to Lanka. And while he is taking off, because he's so big now, the mountains crumble under him. So he sets off for Lanka. This is the end of Kishkinda Kanda. And then we'll go to the next one next time. Okay. I think that will be Sundar Kanda. Any questions? No. Thank you, Cindy, for that montage that you made. It was so cute. I couldn't believe I was young once.
I just want to ask,
Yeah.
the way Rama killed Diwali was not right. Yeah.
Diwali?
But, no, the way Rama killed Vali
Hmm.
was not fair. I think
Yeah,
why he should have had a reason to do that.
right, right. Now, I'm
What?
glad you asked that question. How much time do we have? We've got time. There is a thing called dharma, which is what we call righteousness. There are two types of dharma. One is samanya dharma, and another one is called visesha dharma. Samanya dharma is the righteousness that we look at in the universe. We have a sense of right and wrong, and that will be according to the culture we have grown up in, the rules of that society, the laws of that country. All that will tell you this is right, this is not right. So this is called Samanya Dharma, which everybody obeys in society. You have certain punishments for people who, say rape a child or something like that. So all this is Samanya Dharma. We know this is not right. We don't do that. Now this, we have made these laws according to our limited mind because we only see that particular situation in that context. Now, supposing you move into a higher mind, then you are seeing the whole situation. You're not seeing just this little situation. When you see the whole situation, then you know how to act, and that is called Visesha Dharma. Usually, only an avatar will know it, or an extraordinarily wise person will see it. So, what Rama did was Visesha Dharma because only the divine is complete, whole, perfect. Anything that is in manifestation is imperfect. Nobody can be perfect completely. Everything is imperfect. Now, for a greater, you must remember, Rama came to liberate Ravana, and they had to do this great charade of the Sita Devi being Mahalakshmi, allowing herself to be kidnapped so that Rama can come kill Ravana, meaning he's taking away his physical body, the monster body, and giving him a chance to be liberated. And for that, you have to have some imperfection because he has come as a human being. So this was the imperfection he chose so that the greater good can come. Why did he want to liberate Ravana? Not just for Ravana, but also to protect the whole lot of people who were being harassed, and it was a cosmic destructive situation. So it's a question of like a collateral damage that you might say, which he chose to do, and for which he, because Vali says, I don't want immortality. He says, I get this benefit. So when Krishna comes back in the um, Krishna Avatara, Rama comes back as Krishna. And at the end, when Krishna is lying down, the war is over, everything is over. And he has said all the Yadavas, all his kinsmen will die, and they all died. And there was only Krishna left. He was sleeping under a tree. A hunter came that side and seeing his foot thought it was a deer's face. So he shoots the arrow, it pierces Krishna's feet, and Krishna leaves the body. And the hunter, seeing it's a human being, comes running and he feels very, very upset. He says, my goodness, is this what I'm done? I'm so sorry, I never meant it. So Krishna tells him, don't worry. This is only a karma that you are paying back, because I killed you as Vali in the Rama avatar. So you had the right to get rid of my body in the Krishna avatar. So Vali does the same thing to him. So sometimes when
It
you're
was
in a situation of power and you have to protect a whole lot of people, you might have to make a decision in which one person may be hurt. What do you do? It's a matter of a Visesha Dharma there. You can't use a Samanya Dharma. You can't go by the rules in the books. It's like,
but
yeah, any
Swamiji, how
situation.
do two wrongs make a right?
How did?
How do two wrongs make a right?
Two wrongs never make a right. Two wrongs are two wrongs. It was not right. That's what I'm saying. It was not right, although he had a reason to do it, because that was a punishment for people who um, rape their brothers' wives and keep them abducted with them. That was the punishment of those days. However, Rama could have also fought straight face to face with them. He never says it's right. He said, this is the reason I did it. But we have to understand that for the greater good of the universe, some imperfection had to be shown. So he took on this imperfection so that the rest of the world could be protected. And then he had the karma for that in the Krishna avatar. Now, second thing is, at one level, logic helps. At another level, logic doesn't help, because you have to go into a greater knowing. So if you, for example, yesterday I was talking to some other group about how Karna was killed in the Mahabharata. And Karna was, how he suffered. He was born and he was called Sutaputra, and he had his brothers didn't know he was who he was. And all his life he suffered and died also tragically. And Krishna helped his death. But if you read the previous life of Karna, you will find he was an asura called um, Dumbad Bhava, something like that. And he was a Rakshasa. And he prayed to the sun god and did a lot of penance, and he asked that he wanted to be immortal. So the sun god said, that I can't do. Everybody cannot be immortal. Even I am not immortal. So he says, okay, then let me have 1,000 armors, one over the other. And only a person who does um, penance for 1,000 years can fight with me. And if he manages to break the one armor, he will fall and die. So the Surya Bhagavan says, okay, but he knows now this is going to be troublesome, because this chap will let go. So now that he knows that he's not immortal, but he knows that nobody can kill him so easily, he goes around, creates mayhem. When people get power and they're not in control of it, you can do such tremendous damage anywhere in the universe and to the entire universe. It can be a cosmic destruction. So this is what he did. And a girl um, who is like born of the mind-born sons of um, Brahma. Her name was Murti, and she was married to um, the what's his name? Dharma, boy called Dharma. So she does penance to Vishnu and she says, please do something about this cosmic destruction that's happening. What is going to happen to the world? So Vishnu comes to her and says, don't worry, I'll help out, but you will be the reason that he will be killed. So she doesn't know him from Adam, just like the coronavirus. So she says, okay, then she gets twins born to her. And these twins are so close to each other, and she teaches them right in the beginning to worship Shiva. So they're both doing a lot of penance, young boys. And one day, when this Dumbodhava comes out, one of these boys comes and says, I want to have a fight with you. And Dumbodhava is so surprised. He says, people won't even stand in front of me. You're such a youngster. And on top of that, you want to fight with me. In a minute, I will annihilate you. So he says, you stop talking, try fighting with me. He says, the other thing is that if by any chance, which you won't get, you break one of my armors, you will fall down and die immediately. Do you think it's worth it? Yes. So the boy says, don't worry about it. If that's my um, sankalpa, I'll do what I need to. So he goes, fights, and he breaks an armor and he falls down and dies. And then this Dumbodhava looks around and sees another boy just like him coming. They're twins, you see. They are like two souls in one body because everything is the same for them. So that boy comes up and he says, that's okay because we think the same. I've been doing penance for 1,000 years. And he goes to this other boy who has fallen down dead and he whispers a mantra to him. He gets up. Now this Dumbodhava is shocked because he realizes that one boy will do a penance for 1,000 years, come back, he can break his armor, falls dead, then the other one comes, and he would be continuously engaged with them. So they go on doing this and then they break 999 armors. And then he says, oh my goodness, now I can't fight with them. And he runs away. And he runs away and he prays to the Surya Bhagavan and he says, I did penance to you and you gave me these boons, now what shall I do? So the Surya Bhagavan is fond of him because this boy is so devoted to him. So he says, you stay with me. So these two twins go running and they ask the Surya Bhagavan, how dare you keep a monster with you? Let him out now. So Surya Bhagavan says, I can't do it because he is my devotee and I will never let down a devotee. So these two boys say, okay, then you go and be born on the earth along with him and you will also suffer because you are protecting a monster. So he goes down and both the sun god and this Dumbodhava are born as Karna. And these two boys are Nara and Narayana. So the next armor has to be shot and killed by Arjuna. Arjuna is Nara, taking birth. And Narayana is Krishna. Krishna knows, Arjuna doesn't know. So finally, at the end, when Karna is dying, his father, the Indra, he comes because he knows that if the armor is broken, his son Arjuna will die. Arjuna's father is Indra. So he comes to Karna, and Karna is known to be a great philanthropist. Anybody asks him anything, he'll give. So he comes and he begs him for something. He says, whatever you want, I'll give you. So he says, I want your armor. So he cuts it off his body and he gives it to Indra. And Arjuna doesn't pierce the armor, but the armor is gone. So Arjuna is fighting with him, and his chariot wheel sticks into a puddle of water. He's trying to pull it out. It so happens that few days before that, all these people had surrounded a young boy, Arjuna's son called Abhimanyu, and they had all killed him, which is much against the war laws. A young boy and all these big older people. So then what Abhimanyu does is he will say, please give me water, somebody. Karna is standing near that puddle. He could have given the water. He doesn't. But because he feels sorry for the boy, he hugs him and then he kills him with a knife to the back because he knows that these other people will hurt him. So the same puddle of water where he could have given water to a dying soul, he didn't do it. His chariot will stick on that same place. Krishna will tell Arjuna, now shoot him. So he is trying to lift up the chariot and the wheels are shot. Karna is shot. And when Karna falls down and dies, Krishna tells him, these things happen because of what you did in the earlier janma. But now you're purified because when you finish your karma, you're purified. You're being punished by yourself. So he said, ask me whatever you want. And Karna says, I would like to die on your lap. So Krishna takes him on his lap and he gives up the Panchabhuta body. And his spirit goes into Krishna. So you must remember when we die, what we think of dying is only shedding the Panchabhuta Sharira, the body of Panchabhutas made of earth, water, fire, air, ether. This is Panchamahabhutas. That keeps your physical body supported so your Atma can live in that physical body, your soul, and do the karmas that you need in your journey towards the higher divine. So if you are strong in your penance and stuff like that, there are people who've been able to get a victory over the Panchamaha Bhutas, over water, air. You must have heard of people sitting under the earth being buried but not dying, rishis and people like that, because they've conquered the earth tattva. So when you conquer all this, when you leave behind the body, when you say God kills such and such a person, He's removing that monstrous body away and giving the Atma, the soul, a chance to be liberated because the divine has killed such a person's body. So that's the understanding. So somebody who sees the whole will know that I'm not killing this body, I'm liberating the soul. But somebody who doesn't see that, who knows only this much, will say, why should he kill so and so? So that is how after, as a hunter, he kills Krishna, he gets liberated immediately. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
It's time, no? Is it?
Yep.
Hari Om, Auntie. Thank
Hari
you.
Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om. Hari Om, Manu.
Hari Om.